First of all, before we start this show, everyone, I have to apologize for us being late. It was completely my fault. We were all set up to go. We were in the studio about to hit the button, and then I hear a knock on the door. I answer the door, and you guys are not going to believe this. Derek Carr was standing at the door. So I kicked him in the chin. He rolled down my stairs, and I had to call the ambulance for him. But he's still going to play on Sunday. I'm sure that's a good enough excuse for Zero and Aether and everyone who's been waiting on us.
That you chose violence.
Sweet chin music on one leg. Never seen it before. Just started with the crutches, huh?
With a brace. The violent human being right here. Zero, Aether, good evening. All Chargers fans rooting, hoping for a victory. And I'm sure that this video will be flooded with Raiders fans in the comments because it always is. So FTR and GFY. Nailed it.
GF. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. What the hell? Hey, Aether, we're here. I told you the story. If you didn't see it, just rewind it real quick. Go check it out. But we're here to talk about last week. Squeaked went out against the Cardinals. And we're here to talk about and preview the game this week and go over the injury report. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. We do this every single week. And even into the offseason, when we get there, we do make content throughout the offseason as well. I'm joined with my co-host, Tony Tucker. Are you ready for the Raiders, Tony?
Boom, let's go.
Sounds ready. First, let's start off with the Cardinals. Any takeaways that you want to share with the people watching that Cardinals game? I was sweating the whole time. I never give up on a game when we have Justin Herbert because we've seen some pretty crazy things happen at the end of games, but I was already starting to – this isn't looking good with the offensive line injuries.
Wow. My takeaway is that there's still a lot of refusal to do the things that seem to be working, right? And I wish that if I could have like a 15-minute cup of coffee with Staley, it would just be like, you realize that the run defense is more effective in certain formations and you refuse to play out of that more often, right? Like when we rewatch the game and they're being successful, like there's three like true defensive linemen in the game. And then sometimes it's like there is just Sebastian Joseph Day and Morgan Fox. And then on the outside of that is like Rumpf and Mack. It's like, what is this? James Conner, Jimmy Conner, any Conner. Jimmy Conner's a 60-year-old former tennis player. He could probably get a buck against the Chargers rush defense right now. So like, why is it that we think that this is a good thing? You know, like I could see if it was working, Mike, and the Chargers were around 22, 23 points a game in the scoring column, right? But they're like 27th, 29th in points against on average in the game. Like there just doesn't seem to be a real like recognition of what's going on. Like that's my takeaway is that like, yes, you're going to win games because you have super talented players on your team. Like we're talking like all pro level talent on both sides of the football. Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. And then on the other side, you have Derwin James and Khalil Mack. And then you have players that are like starting to rise at their positions in Sebastian Joseph Day. And Drew Tranquil has played amazing football this year. And Michael Davis has his shit together. Like you have enough talent to win these close games. But when you're playing the best of the best, they're going to beat you when there's a refusal to commit to certain things. And like, well, this is my scheme and I'm just sticking this way. And I bet Staley's smart enough to convince me that what he's doing is right and that at some point it'll work out. I just don't see it.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense is that point is when Joey Bosa comes back, but that just leans more into what you're saying. You know, how many coaches have been blessed with players that can make the play that Keenan Allen made on the sideline against KC late in that game? How many coaches are blessed with players and edge rushers that can go out in pass coverage and strip a wide receiver about to score and take it back the other way? How many coaches are blessed with players that not only get you one strip on James Conner, who already had 7 yards on that play, but also gets you an interception one-on-one with DeAndre Hopkins a few drives later. I mean, these are all plays made by the players, and I don't think it's as much so Staley putting them in a position to make these plays as it is these players are just special, like you're saying, and they're kind of carrying the team.
Yeah, this is throughout my course of watching football, there's always teams that win because the team is super talented, but the coaching is kind of impeding them, whether it's on the defensive or offensive side of the ball. But on this, it seems to be a combination of coaching on both sides of the football, where it's like it's a refusal to do this on defense, and then Joe Lombardi on the other side of the ball, not utilizing a mobile, in his prime, big arm, stud quarterback. And we start to see a little bit each week. It's like baby steps. 6-5. You gotta at some point, you gotta just open it up. You gotta look at and say, like, hey, whatever side Max Crosby is on, we're rolling out the other way, and we're gonna play. We're moving the pocket away from Max Crosby multiple times in order to take deep shots in this football game and put pressure on a bad secondary. And it's like, do I think that they're gonna do it? Unfortunately, Mike, I just don't. I think it's going to be a lot of like, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a shotgun, quick, like 5-yard curls, hitches, comebacks, 7-yard outs, just because we want to make sure we're staying within we want to be positive on the chain so we can go for it on every 4th and 2 possible.
I agree with you, and we're going to get into this Raiders talk and talk more about the offensive line matchups and all that kind of stuff. But another thing that will neutralize Max Crosby and help out with Max Crosby is getting the run game going early in the game. Non-existent against the Cardinals. Non-existent, really, against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's back-to-back weeks where Herbert's playing without a run game, without any threat to run the football. That's painful. That you're handicapping the quarterback. You're handicapping the entire offense at that point. What was your thoughts on this? Because I think we do disagree on one thing. Your thoughts on the call to go for 2 at the end of the game.
Oh, we disagree greatly on this.
Yeah. We don't disagree very often on this show. So buckle your seatbelts and get your popcorn ready. We're going to talk for 3 minutes about this. Go ahead, Sonny.
I am not a fan of the coach getting to make like a super gutsy call at that point in the game when it's like, you didn't make other gutsy calls to make attempts to stop what was working for them to score, right? So now that your future All-Pro QB1 and RB1 and wide receiver 1 make these plays, make these special things, and your offensive line is finally picking up blocks, well, your All-Pro center is missing. Like, now you get to go like, hey, we're a team. We don't flinch. We got guts. We play with all this stuff. And yeah, the team might like it, but more like it's like gambling, right? Like it's not meant for you to win. Like, I would have preferred kicking it and going for it, because in my mind, the reason he wants to go for it is because he's like, shit, I can't trust my defense in overtime. Like, I can't trust them to get a stop, at the very least force them to a field goal. Like, so if we don't win it and go down and score, we had a chance to win the game. But it's just so gutsy. Like, put Dicker on the field, let him bang it through. Let's take this thing to overtime. We'll get a stop, and Herbert's going to take us down there and get a field goal. Or Herbert gets the ball first and takes it and rams it down their throat. Like, I'm somebody who wants to play mostly conservative football. And at certain points, go for it on 4th downs. Like, when it's in our favor, go for the 2-point conversions when it's there. But not in a game that we had to fight back. 3 possessions in the final 7 minutes of the game, because that's how inept the Cardinals offense and everything that's going on in their organization. And then you're going to pull that shit when your team, I didn't like it. I did not like it. He gets praised for it, which is great, and I'm glad it worked out. I'm just saying, I personally would not have gone for 2. And I text you as soon as they scored. Like, as soon as they scored, I was like, do not go for 2. And then he put that up, and I was like, he better be a Texas fan. They're rooting on UT. The sidelines. I got to take a deuce. Don't go for two. And he goes for two. And it worked out. And it was a great play call. It was great.
Yeah, it did work out perfectly. And it seems like they got the look that they exactly wanted to run that play against. So that did work out well on the play call. My thing is that game throughout the game, and I said at the beginning of the show, I didn't feel like we were winning that game. I'll be honest with you. And I feel like that 2-point conversion actually gave us an opportunity with Justin Herbert with the football needing 2 yards to steal that game away from the Arizona Cardinals. Less so about not being able to stop them in overtime. Less so about, the struggles our offensive line was having going into overtime. Herbert was making it work. I just felt like overall for 3.5 quarters of the game, the Chargers lost. So we got a chance to steal it. Go ahead and be gutsy and steal it. But I hear everything you're saying, and I think we disagree less because there's been other situations this year, even like Cleveland, where we have made some terrible gutsy calls down the stretch. And I don't think Staley deserves a ton of credit because, like you said, in what we watched on tape, that it wasn't gutsy throughout the game. And we've talked about these larger sets with multiple D linemen on the inside of the defense and how it works against the run. Well, the sacrifice is, from Staley's point of view, is that you could give up a big pass play. So why aren't we being aggressive then and preventing from being in a 24-17 situation? So I do agree with you on that standpoint.
Yeah, I don't understand why we have this aggressive mindset, that whatever it is, but if your scheme's not working, then why aren't we being more aggressive on defense? Like, why aren't we putting more people in the box? And why aren't we being more aggressive and saying, hey, Asante, Michael Davis, these are still corners that were on the team last year. I know we lost JC, but why aren't we just going and saying, hey, we're going to play man coverage a lot more, and we're going to help out this D-line, and we're going to help Khalil Mack get a little bit of pressure taken off of him so he can go up there. Because one of the guys that I'm going to talk about today is there's a couple guys on the other side of the football that we thought might be impact players. They're not holding up their end of the bargain, opposite of Khalil Mack. Like, they're getting one-on-ones, and they're not winning nearly enough. They're not getting nearly enough pressures or quick enough pressures. Like, it just has to happen. I don't want it to be that D tackle, Sebastian Joseph Day, is getting back to the quarterback before you after fighting through a double team, center guard double team.
Yeah.
That's not how this should look. So
or Khalil Mack is literally being forced to pick guys up because he's being held. Pick guys up and take them to the quarterback, and he just has a alley to run out the other way. There's no one on the other side. Oh man, I've calmed down. I was very mad at Kyle Van Noy on the day of the game because I watched about 5 straight plays where he did absolutely nothing but just stand there. But I think, and you've talked some sense into me on this, it's just not his position. That's not what he wants to be playing. That's not what he should be playing. He's trying to make do and not give up a massive play and just make sure he doesn't give up a huge play.
Yeah. You can see him. He's just he's just playing to not give up the big run on the edge. And so he's not effective as a pass rusher at all. Like, I would be surprised if he's pressured the quarterback 3 times this year.
Yeah.
And he's playing on the edge.
Well, and the thing is, early in the year when we had Bosa and he was playing more of like a game wrecker style, where they're kind of letting him either fly at the quarterback or randomly drop back into coverage and make these edgy plays that we brought him in to make, he actually was working better. And he looked more closer to what we'd want him to be doing. So I think that getting Bosa back will be huge for him. Athir said here in the chat, if the Bolts win the Super Bowl, aside from Herbert, the most likely MVP would Derwin James or Austin Eckler. I do want to say this before we go on to the Raiders. If we make the playoffs, if we squeak in, I don't know if you can make a case for another player that's been more impactful this year on defense than Derwin James. I mean, this defense is awful, but the only reason they're staying in games is because he's making plays all over the football field in every part of the game. Do you think that there's a chance that he could be in the race at the end here for Defensive Player of the Year? Because it's getting where we're starting to see sacks and, loads of tackles, 10 tackles in multiple games this year, and strips and interceptions. I mean, what's it going to take for a safety like him to win it when he's not going to have, that one stat that he's leading the league in, but he is just dominating across the board?
So I think the Chargers would have to win out for that to be the scenario, because likely the Cowboys are going to end up with 12 wins, and Micah Parsons is probably going to have 18, 19 sacks, maybe flirting with 20. Myles Garrett is also having an impressive year. I hate to say this, the Raiders, but Max Crosby is having a sensational year. I think it'd be tough to give him Defensive Player of the Year. with the fact that the Raiders are 4-7 at this point, but who knows what goes on with their season. Like, I picked Derwin James to be the defensive player of the year. It's pinned up in the garage there because I saw that this thing was coming through. But I don't think it's just him. I think there's a few players in Khalil Mack, like the new episode of All In aired today, and I just shut off all devices, turned it up super loud, and enjoyed the shit out of it because it was a love letter to Khalil Mack and how well he's been playing this year and all the things he's been doing and everything that's gone. It was to him and Bosa, but more so, I felt like it was for us to remember that this is somebody in year 9 of his career that is still dominating. And it's kind of forgotten because the defense is so bad, because they're just getting crushed. They're getting hammered on other sides of the ball. If they just run away from Khalil Mack when they need big plays, if they run it to him, he's getting tackles for losses. He's getting forced fumbles. I think he's got 6.5, 7 sacks on the season this year. Like, him and Sebastian Joseph Day and Derwin James are like the most consistent staples in this offense. Asante's played nice, but he's not squeezing these interceptions. He's not getting the turnovers like what we would hope that he would be getting. So, I look around, it's like there's so much talent on the defensive side of the ball. How is it? How is it that you could be so bad on defense every single week against teams that aren't even that good offensively, that look incompetent against other teams, but then against the Chargers, all of a sudden, big plays are happening for them? Why is that the case?
There's only one explanation, and it's the scheme.
Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing else you can really blame it on. Because, we're down Joey Bosa. We're down J.C. Jackson. We got some players out there still. And impact players, not just good players. It's not an up-and-coming players. We have good players, impact players on the defense, and the defense is awful. It's not even average.
Yeah.
So that it's a big problem, and if we have to go to the playoffs with nothing changing, we're kind of screwed. But let's get into the Raiders game because we got to win this game to even get to the playoffs. Let me pull up the official injury report updated as of today. I'll read it off. Chargers. Freaking. Yeah. They got to figure it out.
They got to figure it out, but I think that really it just has to be him abandoning certain principles that he's been trying to install and just say, okay, we are going to be aggressive because that's what he always talks about, and we're going to be tough, and we're going to be whatever, but it seems more like he's trying to be finesse with the defense.
I think coaches are scared to admit that their scheme, their plan, their whatever didn't work and adjust, because they look at that as admitting failure. But I think the best coaches are the ones that are willing to admit, oh, this isn't working out. It's halfway through the third quarter. Let's go a different direction and try something else. Not
being able to change, not being able to adapt is what kills everything in evolution.
And I just think about the contribution that, Drew Tranquil has made this year for the defense, or that Bryce Callahan has made this year for the defense, the work SJD, Mac, all those guys are putting in to get, bad results. It's just doesn't seem right to me. Doesn't sit right with me. Because Callahan's playing great. I could talk about 10 players.
Yes, I forgot. I should have lumped in Callahan in that. I'm really sorry because he's impressive every single week.
You can say lumped him into those other 3. 5, 6, 7 players in the defense that you could tell are contributing and are making plays out there that are keeping.
What the fuck is happening? Mike, I'm thinking about it. It's like, wait, I left out Tranquil. I left out Bryce Callahan. There's 5 players that are playing really good football on defense, and somehow every week we're giving up 140, 150 plus yards rushing every week, and 20-something. What are they giving up this year? 28 points a game or something
like that. And we're not elite. We're better at defending the pass, but that's just because you have Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr. and Michael Davis and Bryce Callahan. You have a really good secondary. So, of course, you're good in the pass. That game's a lot more simple. I don't know. But here's the injury report, Tony. Nasir Adderley, full practice on Friday. He's probably going to go, but he's questionable. We'll see how much he's used. Alohi Gilman played good last week. Alohi Gilman's played good every time we've needed him to step up. Bryce Callahan did not practice on Wednesday. It was a little bit scary to see, but he's all right. He had a groin injury, full practice. He doesn't even have a tag. Same thing with Michael Davis, dealt the knee injury last week. Full practice again all week this week. He's going to play. Derwin James had a hip, did not practice on Wednesday. Got some messages from some people. Did you see Derwin James didn't practice? And I was like, relax. It's Wednesday. Sure enough, he's good to go. Corey Linsley, though, he's ruled out. Concussion. Hopefully he can get back next week. We need him. He's so important. Khalil Mack, rest. Did not practice on Wednesday. Did not practice. He did practice on Thursday, but he's good. He's always on this report. Kenneth Murray, who gets hurt in every game but has never missed a game. Full practice throughout the week. He's going to be good to go again. Trey Pipkins is ruled out with the knee injury. I think they're playing cautious because this tweak seemed like it was worse than previous times. He's tweaked it. Sawyer's good to go. He had a knee injury popped up on here. Mike Williams ruled out. I'm cool with them playing it safe with him, though, because we do have enough weapons. We have an elite quarterback. Like, Mike is just a cherry on top whenever we can get him back in the lineup. Drew Tranquil, questionable with an illness, did not practice all week. It's kind of scary. Fehoko as well. I don't know if it's the same illness, but he also has an illness, did not practice all week. Both are questionable.
Scary.
We need him pretty bad. Going to the Las Vegas Raiders here. Billings, questionable defensive tackle. He has a fibula injury. I don't know. That sounds nasty. You never know how serious it is, I guess. Backup running back Brendan Bolden is also questionable. Everyone else here is good to go. One of their backup tight ends is out. Horsted. Josh Jacobs with a calf injury was limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, limited Friday, but I think this is the same injury he played through last week, so he should be good to go. Listed as questionable. Denzel Perryman is one they're a little bit worried about with the wrist. I guess he tweeted something out about pray for me, y'all, or something like that. I don't know if something personal is going on or with this injury or what's happening. He's questionable to play as well. But I think that most of these guys on this report are probably going to play for the Raiders. They're generally healthy other than the guys on IR, which is Waller and Renfro still.
Yeah, I think that for just to focus on our side of the injury report is it's really those defensive guys. Yeah. And one thing I was thinking about with Kenneth Murray, like at some point you might need to go to Reader. Like he's not as athletic or as talented. The upside's not there, but he's smarter. Like, and he's just like, he doesn't take time to react. He's just like, I'm going. I know what my assignment is, where my position is, what I'm supposed to do, and I go. So he's not as fast. He's not as strong. But who gives a shit? At least he's going to be in the place. That touchdown at the end that Kyler Murray got right before halftime, Kenneth was lost before the play and then didn't even, like, he was like the spy in case that happened. And Kyler just sees him standing there and he's like, well, drift to my left. He's still standing there. Shoo, I'm gone. And I was just like, what? Why was that so easy? Oh, well, our middle linebacker was just standing in the middle of the field doing nothing. So, like, I don't know that Reader would have caught him. I don't know if he was fast enough to stay with him or get out there. But it's like sometimes every fifth play, Kenneth Murray will just forget to think and just wreck somebody's world. And you see how talented he could be. And then there's the other three plays.
If he played that way on every play, he'd be one of the best linebackers in the NFL. That's how freaking crazy and inconsistent he is. And it's so frustrating because we see those sparks. And it's like it's a situation where you're like, I know you could do it. Just do it over and over and over again. And we've talked about it a million times. The biggest thing for me with him is that he is playing – he's second-guessing himself while he's playing. They need to just tell him and get in his ear and say, we're going to yell at you if you make a mistake. But it's okay to make mistakes. Play fast, play hard, do your thing, especially this week. This is a week where Kenneth Murray can make an impact because we're going to be facing a team that's going to run the ball 30 times. And we need him to not get lost in the sauce, not be getting blocked 5 yards downfield or making his first contact 5 yards downfield on run plays. We need him to be aggressive if we're going to have a chance at stopping Jacobs, especially if Drew Tranquil isn't going to play in this game, which just frightens me. If Drew Tranquil and Brandon Fehoko, two of our key run stuffers, are both out.
Yes, that like when you read those two on the injury report for illness, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. But keys to victory, Tony. It's obvious what's happening in this game. There is no mystery. There is no confusion. The Raiders are going to run the shit out of the football. and try and win the game that way. We're going to throw the shit out of the football and try and win that way. And we're going to see who can score more points. But what's your keys here to slowing Josh Jacobs enough to give Herbert the opportunity to get a 10-point lead in this game?
So I think I've already talked about what I would like to see, what I think could be effective, right? It's just a small tweak in taking one DB off the field and bringing a third defensive lineman, at least for first and second down. And if third down is, like he's pretty good on third down about getting the right packages in there. It's just the earlier downs. Yes, Athir, did you send yours or should you send yours? You should.
Yeah, send your keys to victory, Athir. He has his bold prediction here. We'll save that for the end here. He said, call me crazy, but I think the Bolts are going Peyton Manning style on Sunday. Let her air it out. I mean, I'm all for it.
I'm not calling you crazy. I'll call you Athir by your name. I would say that this is my key to victory, is that the Chargers not only need to get the run game going with Austin Eckler, like it just has to happen against this defense. You have to run the football to try and nullify a little bit of the Max Crosby, Chandler Jones rush. I know people are giving Chandler Jones a hard time. He still is a viable pass rusher in this league. So they have an attack, and he becomes more viable when Foster Sarrell and Will Clapp and Jamari Sawyer, like when this is your offensive line, like Chandler Jones could make a lot of money this weekend, potentially, if the play and the game plan isn't there. It's Eckler. But I think more importantly, the key to victory, if Matt Ryan can break a 40-yard run against this defense, Herbert needs to have 40-plus rushing yards. And it doesn't need to be all in one play, but it needs to be 5-yard pickup here, like 8-yard scramble, 13-yard scramble. It needs to be him using his legs, extending drives, picking up first downs, and him saying, you know what? My team needs this, right? We need 100 yards rushing from Eckler in this game, and we also need another Herbert to get 40 yards rushing, to pick up 3 or 4 first downs with his legs, or maybe like minimize. Oh, there's a holding penalty on first down. Herbert drops back. Here we go. He picked up 12 yards, slides safely on a scramble. We don't need him to be a hero. We just need him to use his athleticism, because they do sell out for the pass rush at certain times, and they leave bigger gaps for quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks to hurt them. And I would like to see, I think that will be a key for victory for me, is that Herbert uses his legs, 3 to 4 first downs, and has about 40 yards rushing in this game.
Yeah, and in key moments too, that would be great. He took off a few times against Arizona, and I was like, he's looking more close to normal. There was not as much wincing or fear to take off with the football. I hope that continues this week as well, because Herbert is still a real threat with his legs. And when the running back and the quarterback, but when the quarterback gets going on the ground, that forces them in your passing game to leave someone in there to watch Herbert, which gives you one less guy to cover Keenan Allen and to cover Josh Palmer and to cover Gerald Everett. So I like that. I think my key to victory is going to be making it work with the pass protection. We're going to see a lot of max protection. We're going to see a lot of Josh Kelly and Austin Eckler staying in and blocking for Herbert. And when, things break down, you're going to see him just pop right out, and Herbert's going to do one of those little shovel passes to him, so that way you can keep it from getting sacked. The biggest thing is going to be avoiding getting sacked a million times in this game, because I have firm confidence that if Herbert's standing and he's throwing, we're winning. I have firm confidence. So that's my biggest one. Anyways, bold prediction and score prediction, Tony?
Yeah, my bold prediction is going to be is Keenan Allen is about to have the game we've all been waiting for him to have, where he's 175 yards on double-digit receptions. I'm talking 12 receptions, where he just, he's gonna feast in this game. Like early on, it was Nate Hobbs is a good slot corner, and Keenan's never really done, put up big numbers against him or whatever. Like that was the storyline going into week 1. I'm not even sure. I'm sure Hobbs is playing and will be in the slot. I just think that the game plan should be featuring Keenan very heavily, to where he's getting 15 targets in this game.
Yeah.
And it can even
be in your short yardage game, Lombardi. It can. This guy's so good in the act department when he's 100% and going, and especially when he gets he's an emotional player. So when he gets the juices going, he even gets better. He elevates when things get tough and the challenge is brought to him. I think that matchup with Nate Hobbs will be fun to watch, but I don't think Nate Hobbs has the skill set to follow him. So we're going to see him outside on other corners, I think, too. But bold prediction for Athir here is Mac has 4 sacks versus 2 fumbles. I would call this crazy, but he had 3 forced fumbles in the last game, so it might not be too much of a crazy prediction. I just don't think they're going to drop back enough. I don't think they're going to drop back enough. We're going to throw 50 times.
But that's the thing, is that if they actually establish the running game and they can get out to like a 10-point lead and start to throw off what the game plan is, like maybe Vegas abandons the run and they do the job for us. Like the best way to slow down Josh Jacobs and what we did in week 1 was the Chargers actually had a lead in that, like the entire game, led it from start to finish. That has to be the same recipe here, but also dominate time of possession by running effectively. And what helps the bad, the young, the inexperienced, lesser offensive line run the football against a not good front for the Raiders. In my opinion, that's what I would do. Is I would say, here's how we're going to get this done. Eckler, get ready, because you're going to carry the ball 20 times in this game, because that's what we need from you.
Yeah, that was going to be my bold prediction, was that Eckler has 3 tubs in this game again, like he's had in other games this year. And I think that's the key. Another key for the Chargers is getting that run game going early. This 10-0 deficit thing, it ain't going to last forever. I don't know what it is about this team. They almost strategically get down 10-0 to start games, and then they end up winning all those ones. But the ones that are close the entire game, or we led the entire game like Kansas City, we blow. I don't understand what playing from behind is doing for the team. I think maybe the coaching staff is shitting their pants as Patrick Mahomes chases them all night on the scoreboard.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why either. But everybody just seems to be like, all right, here we go. We're relaxed. And it's not really like they do anything different. One thing we have been noticing, though, is like really key drops in big portions. McKitty's had a couple of big like pivotal drops. Even Austin Eckler has dropped a couple balls early on that caused trouble, that caused early punts. We saw it early on. Palmer had a drop. Like, there's always been something where it's like, if they just didn't do that. And I think that's the thing, is that they haven't put together their best game of the year, regardless of who's out there. There just hasn't been one of those games yet this year where they came out and everything was clicking. Like, you remember the Bengals game last year? Like, they came out and were just clicking right away. And even when the Bengals stormed back, it was still like, doesn't matter. We're putting 40 on you, because that's the kind of game we're having today. There hasn't been any game like that this year.
Yeah, there hasn't at all. And I'm hungry for that one game. This week or next week will be a good time for it.
Yes. I think that it should just – the good teams can string – like the real Super Bowl contenders string multiple games like that back to back to back to back. Like, and then they have like a mental error, letdown, look ahead, whatever it is. Like there's those things just happen. That's why teams don't go 17-0. But in our case, it hasn't even been one game of complete 4 quarters of football.
In wins, we've been hanging on by the patchy hair on my chin.
There it is.
In losses, we've just been getting blown out. So it's not been beautiful. I do want to bring up this one last point before we sign off here. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. Please like the video, subscribe, share this with more Chargers fans that you guys know. DJ going to go all out because Waller and Renfrow are out. I was going to ask you, how do you think we should use Derwin James this week with Darren Waller out? Should we still use him primarily to try and shut down the tight end? Because Monroe is still a very good tight end. Or should we do something that I'm thinking of and really emphasize Derwin James close to the line of scrimmage and getting all over this run game, and even in the pass game, if it turns out to be a play action?
If I were building a game plan, I would probably have Derwin almost playing as a pass rusher in this game. Like, I would have him lined up on the same side, because we didn't get to it, but one of the players that I thought really needed to have an impact game is Chris Rumph. Needs to show up in this game. Like, the Raiders' offensive line is not good. And if they're dropping back on 3rd and 8 or whatever it is, he needs to have some get off, some force. He needs to be getting pressures and just having his best game of the season at this moment right now. But one thing I think that could help that is stacking Derwin James on the side, and maybe he doesn't blitz. Maybe he drops back into coverage. But if he can give just a little bit of like, who am I guarding? Is Derwin coming on this one? What am I doing? A little confusion to give Rumpf or Van Noy or Tuska or whoever they throw out there at the edge. Just a little bump, a little extra half beat for them to get going. I think that's how I would use them. I would have them kind of floating around, maybe coming up the middle to try and ease up some of the pressure, make them think a little bit, get Joseph Day some one-on-ones, let him get some pressure up the center. I would be a little unconventional with Derwin as like a blitzing linebacker. I would almost try and turn him into Micah Parsons.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Just use them in all these different spots, close to the line of scrimmage, basically daring them to pass. And if they start passing, we should adjust and do whatever we got to do. But that's what we want them to do. DJ blitzing, all that kind of stuff, like Carlos is saying. You know what? Probably
he's asking the question. I don't know if he asked it during my
maybe
bullshit or whatever was going on, but I would say yes. I want that to happen
often. And every time we send Derwin James, it feels like he gets there, even if there's people headed his way. But you know what would have helped us get more one-on-ones, Tony? Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh could have helped us.
Yeah, but I think that would have helped with the run game. But if you're only gonna, why sign D tackles when you're only gonna play 2 at a time? When they announced that starting lineup and they're like, Staley goes with the unconventional 2-5-6, I was just like, what kind of defense? What is this? What is he playing like? This is
Please run the ball. Please run the ball. Look at Athir's already moved on. He's thinking about Tua already.
Well, Athir did say that he might not be able to be here with us on Fridays anymore because he got switched to the night shift. So Athir, we will miss you, but still jump in those comments. We'd love to interact with you in any way that we can.
Yeah. And also, Athir, just tell your boss to chill out.
Fired. It's tough to find work in Michigan.
He could be a coach for the Chargers.
He can't do
He's
much.
Some of his takes. We might have a good coach right here in our chat. We don't even know.
Yeah, I would say one of the things I took from the Lombardi press conference this week was around minute 6 in there. He talked about how Herbert shook him off on a play, and he acknowledged it publicly. And in my mind, I was like, ooh, this is like a young teenager who's starting to be defiant, where they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And he's starting to go like, hey, I think I have a grasp of this. Because he said this is what we want from him. We want Justin to know this is my car and I'm driving it. Not the offensive coordinator, not the coaches. Yeah. This is my car, so I'm comfortable. And that's a lot of the stuff that I've been saying is that when Herbert gets to that next level where he is the smartest player on the field, offensively and defensively, he's going to wreck the league. And I thought that could be the jump this year that we saw a little bit more of it. And we really haven't seen a ton of it. But late in the game, he calls the audible, their checks or whatever, and motions Eckler out wide, brings him back, throws him the screen pass, pick up the first down. Great play. And I think we've seen a little bit more of it, of him getting comfortable. But when he can start doing that to where he just gets to the line, he's like, oh, hey, Keenan, right there, that's going to be the soft part of the zone. Linebacker's going to blitz. You're going to be open 8 yards over the middle and then some green grass in front of you. Pick up 13 yards. That's going to be it's going to be scary.
And we don't have someone like that's young and up and coming in the league that's really grasps that part too. Like we talk about the rest of the guys in his class. We don't really have the guy that's coming to the line like Peyton used to do, splits the field down the middle, gets the coverage on both sides, and he still has 20 seconds on the play clock to tell the receivers how to beat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Lombardi took one on the chin too on that sack up the middle. And then he's like, yeah, we were trying to go tempo on third down because we had the personnel. And then he explained it. But I was like,
how many times, though? How many times? I'm trying to sign off, yes. But how many times are we going tempo and we make a dumbass mistake?
You didn't give your score prediction. Neither did I.
Oh, yeah. Score prediction. Sorry.
I got Chargers 34-28. I think I think there's going to be some touchdowns and some points scored for the Raiders in this game, but I believe the Chargers can be victorious.
I'm gonna go Chargers 31-24. I just want to win by 7. I'm a little greedy. I don't like losing to the Raiders. I don't like them talking about it for the next fucking 10 months. Oh, but you guys only beat us by 3. Nah, nah, nah. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear that.
This game should be won. This game should be won. Stanley, you gotta win. You gotta win this job. You gotta win this game if you want to keep your job.
Get everyone, get on the winning column this week and get everyone healthy and get ready for the Dolphins, because that's going to be the real challenge for us. All right, we'll see you guys next week for Dolphins week, because who gives a shit about Raiders week, honestly.